The Texas football market is bullish, and it's time to invest. On today's show, 5 younger Longhorns that I'm buying stock in after the first few days of fall camp. That's coming up on Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You were locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember to leave a comment. That's one of the fastest ways to help us grow here on Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We've got some sound from Texas players following yesterday's practice. We'll get to that a little bit later. Also, a couple of recruiting updates as well to round out the week. But first, let's talk about some of the younger guys who have stood out through the first 2 days of training camp. We've got a list of 5 underclassmen who are going to play major roles for Texas, not just down the line, but here in 2025. The stock is rising for these 5, so buy now, and they'll pay dividends down the road. The stock market analogies don't do it for you. If you just want to be the smartest person in your group text, make sure you're telling your buddies about these guys. Starting with number 1, Grayson Littleton. We've got to start with him, right? The biggest surprise of the first week of practice is the fact that the true freshman has been running with the number 1 defense. He had a great spring, and we heard a lot about him from Coach Sark and a few of his Texas teammates. But even with that, I never would have expected Littleton to be in the conversation as a starter this early in his Longhorn career. It's tough for any freshman to get early PT at a school like Texas, especially this year with this roster. I mean, the talent all over the field, especially in the secondary, with the way the Horns have recruited that spot in the Steve Sarkisian era. The fact that this true freshman is already getting reps with the first team defense, a defense that was one of the best in America last season and one that should be one of the best in America this season. I mean, that is incredible from Grayson Littleton. He was the 9th highest rated recruit in the class of 2025 that Texas just brought in. He may be the first guy to play a significant role on the 40 acres. And Littleton was a bit off the radar in the recruiting cycle. He was a late addition to the class. He didn't commit until November. Most of the class was done by the start of last season. Littleton a little bit under the radar, a little bit off the beaten path. Sometimes those guys are enigmas. There's nothing confusing about Grayson Littleton's start on the 40 acres. The dude is a baller, and he is going to play a big role in this Texas defense this year. So shout out to Grayson Littleton, the biggest story through the first few days. Number 2, Parker Livingstone. Yes, it's Livingston. Shout out to Eyes of Texas, who commented yesterday saying I was pronouncing his name wrong. It's spelled Livingstone, but it's pronounced Livingston. And y'all know I never mispronounce words, right? I'm not sure why everyone's so against me all the time. I don't get it. Parker Livingstone's legit. He's had an incredible 2025. And I will say 2025 because his run of success dates back to the spring, and he has picked up right where he left off. Redshirt freshman, didn't record a catch last season, appeared in a few games, but wasn't a factor and didn't show up on the stat sheet. But he is going to be a top 4 receiver for the Longhorns in 2025. Maybe higher than that. Maybe I'm being disrespectful by only lumping him in to the top 4. And I think Ryan Wingo, Demo, DeAndre Moore, Emmett Mosley V, and Parker Livingstone, I think those are your 4 guys right there. We'll see what the order looks like as the year goes along and as training camp goes along. But Parker Livingstone's the real deal. 6'4", little over 190 pounds, a great athlete, a guy who played baseball and also ran track during his high school career at Lucas Lovejoy, a smooth route runner who has drove a lot of praise from Steve Sarkisian and Chris Jackson through the first couple of days of fall camp. He is a great talent, incredibly coachable, sneaky speed, type of guy you'd want to date your daughter. All right, y'all see what I'm doing here. hitting you with the stereotypes. Now, Parker Livingston's the real deal. And, man, I can't wait to see what he does. He's got that rapport with Arch Manning. Those guys are great friends away from football. The chemistry has been obvious through the first 2 days of practice, and that guy is going to be a factor for the Longhorn offense. Number 3, we'll stick with wide receiver here. True freshman Jaylon McCutchen. Sark and Chris Jackson keep a pretty tight rotation at wide receiver. They're like the cool kids at the popular table at lunch, and you've got to earn your way to getting a seat. It's not easy. McCutchen is getting there. I don't know if he's like in the middle of the table yet, but he's at the edge of the table working his way in there. The lowest rated of the 4 receivers that the Horns signed in this class, but he easily had the best spring of the 4. And even though the others are catching up because they've looked good this week, McCutchen has the lead of the 4 true freshmen. Because there's so much youth and inexperience in that wide receiver room, at least one of those guys is going to be a significant contributor this year. I think Jaylon McCutchen, as of this moment, is the most likely to be that guy. Why? What's kind of separated him? Why do the coaches love him so much? Well, he picked up the playbook incredibly quickly. Like, if you want your offensive-minded coach with a pretty complicated and detailed scheme to trust you, you learn the playbook fast, and it sounds like, Jaylon McCutchen has done just that, maybe faster than any receiver in the Steve Sarkisian era. So McCutchen been getting a lot of runs with the 2s, probably your number 2 slot guy behind DeAndre Moore right now. Again, I mentioned who I expect the top 4 to be when we break camp, but McCutchen not far behind, and I think he's going to have a role for this Longhorn offense this season. Don't sleep on him. Don't always pay attention to the recruiting rankings. This guy, he wasn't a lowly rated recruit. He was just outside the top 100 players in America, but didn't get as much pomp and circumstance as a few of the other signees. He's been doing everything right since enrolling in January. Number 4, Texas Longhorns, young Texas Longhorns that I'm buying stock in after the first couple of days of practice. We'll go back over to the defense. Defensive lineman Murad Watson, the transfer from Syracuse, who's new, came over after the spring. So he's only had 2 official practices on the 40 acres, but he's looked really good in those 2 practices. And I don't think that should come as too much of a surprise, right? We're talking about a guy who was a freshman All-American at Cuse a season ago. He put up some good numbers on a really good football team in 2024. Murad Watson's not the biggest guy in that room, but I think he's going to be one of the most productive. I think it's Watson, Alex January, and Cole Brevard. I think those 3 are probably the first 3 defensive tackles who are going to play against Ohio State 29 days from now. Now, the others are going to rotate too. Travis Shaw will be in there. Hero Canoe will be in there. They're going to rotate that position a lot. But Watson, telling you, he's going to be a disruptive force for the Longhorns on the defensive front. We played that clip from Reese Davis of ESPN. I think it was last week. Maybe it was earlier this week. It's been a long week. Thank God it's Friday. But Reese Davis was recently in Austin, and he did an interview with Steve Sarkisian. Good stuff. We played the clip. Reese Davis asked Sark for a lesser-known player that he thinks is going to make a name for himself this season. Steve Sarkisian said Murad Watson. That was it. He gave him one name, and Murad Watson was that name. And that interview happened before we even got to practice. Steve Sarkisian praised Murad Watson a little bit in his post-practice presser a couple of days ago. And I'm telling you, man, even though it's, year 1 for him at Texas and only year 2 in college football, and even though he was a late add to this roster, big Murad Watson's going to make some things happen this fall. And then number 5, as we round out the list, we'll stick with the defensive line, a true freshman, Josiah Sharma. This guy's 355 pounds, y'all. So you notice the size right away, but then you watch him play, he moves like a guy who's at least 50 pounds lighter than he is. Like, quick twitch and freight train are not phrases that are generally used together to describe somebody or something. That's kind of what Josiah Sharma is right now. Like, he's huge, 6'4", 6'5", 355 pounds, but he's got a quick first step. He's got some explosiveness off the line. He's a monster of a human being and a guy who can move a little bit too. Bruce Feldman releases an annual college football freaks list. That's what he calls it. Or he just talks about the greatest athletic specimens that we have in our sport. I don't know if Sharma's going to be there right now because I don't know if Bruce Feldman knows who he is. But before his college career is all said and done, I guarantee you Sharma's going to be on that list. He's in a very crowded D-line room. Of course, 5 transfers. We just talked about one of them. You've got Alex January. You've got Justice Terry. Y'all know the list of defensive linemen that the Horns have. But so far, Josiah Sharma standing out. I talked to a couple of folks who were at the 2 open practice windows, and they talked about Josiah Sharma just looking different out there. And that's what you're looking for from a coaching staff standpoint, but obviously if you are a fan as well. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, this staff is not afraid to play freshmen. If you're good, they'll put you out there. It's a meritocracy. So he's got a shot. He was far from the highest rated recruit that the Horns brought in, but I'm telling y'all, buy stock like Apple in 2000. Buy stock in Josiah Sharma. This guy is, speaking of disruptive, speaking of forces, he will be those things starting this fall and definitely over the course of his Texas career. So there you go. 5 Longhorns that are stock up right now. 5 guys that you should invest in. 5 guys you should tell your buddies in the group text about because you're going to hear their names called a lot on the TV and radio broadcasts this season. Would love to hear from y'all. Comment below. Do you agree? Who else would you add to that list? Young Horns who are impressing you to this point. Young Horns who you think will play big roles for Texas this season. All right, let's get to some sound from the players. We've got Trevor Goosby talking about what he wants the identity of the offensive line to be. We've got DeAndre Moore talking about his goals for 2025, and they are lofty. And we've got Jaylon Guilbeau talking about learning from Jahdae Barron as he transitions from slot corner to the outside. Oh, yeah, this is good stuff. You don't want to miss it. It's coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, if you're trying to stay on top of your routine, just like the Texas football team is right now, you're doing workouts, long days on campus, you're trying to stay focused during work or heading from class to class, it all starts with hydration, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice that everything works better. I'm in a better mood. My energy's there. My focus, like everything is where I want it to be. That's the beauty of Drip Drop. This is doctor developed. This is scientifically proven to give you fast hydration. They use the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes with only half the sugar of the leading sports drink. So you get all the good, you don't have to deal with the bad. They've got a bunch of different flavors as well. This should be your go-to for these long, red, hot summer days here in Texas or wherever you're tuned in. Right now, our friends at Drip Drop are offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head over to the website, dripdrop.com, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Again, dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. A few Texas players were made available to the press after yesterday's practice. We've got a few bits of sound, and we'll react to them as well. We will start with Trevor Goosby, the starting left tackle for the Longhorns going into 2025. Obviously, Texas is replacing 4 starters on the offensive line. It was one of the best in the country last season, one of the finalists for the Joe Moore Award. A lot of changes up front. Trevor Goosby was asked last night what he wants the identity of this new look Texas offensive line to be. Here's what
I think we're a really gritty O-line. I think we're just really gritty and ground and pound. We just have that kind of, move somebody off the ball, establishment about ourselves and identity about ourselves. So that's kind of what we pride ourselves on for sure. So
gritty, ground and pound, and an offensive line that moves guys off the ball. Those all sound good to me. What say you? I thought Texas was those 3 things in most of the games that they played last season, but against Georgia both times and against Ohio State, they were 0 of those things. They weren't gritty. They couldn't ground and pound. They weren't moving guys off the ball at all. And obviously, we all know who the week one opponent is. You're going to have to be those three things. And I'll throw in the word nasty as well. You're going to have that type of mentality and that level of physicality if you want to push a really good Ohio State defense around. I know they've got a lot to replace, especially on the D-line. It's Ohio State. They've got talented pieces ready to go. So this Texas offensive line has to be ready to rock 29 days from now. But I would love, this team to be able to run every week. At times they were great. The Clemson game, they were great. A&M game, Kentucky game, Florida game. There's a number of games that you could point to against, below average and in Clemson's case, very good competition. But against the elite teams, the teams that you have to beat to win an SEC title or a national title, that O-line's got to be a little better. So I like that mindset from Trevor Goosby. Got to be gritty. Got to be ground and pound. Got to move guys off the ball. Hopefully they go out there and do it. All right, let's hear from DeAndre Moore now, one of the top receivers for Texas. Demo is actually the oldest scholarship receiver Texas has. He's going into his third year. He's a redshirt sophomore. I think he's old enough to drink. He is the oldest guy in that room, the elder statesman for Texas. There's a couple of walk-ons that are older than him, but in terms of the Scully guys, yeah, it's crazy. That's how young and honestly inexperienced that group is. But here's DeAndre Moore. He was asked for his individual goals for the upcoming 2025 season. Of course, selfless guy. He starts with the team. Here we go.
First and foremost, I want to win a natty. I think we've got to the doorstep 2 years in a row, too many for my liking. So I want to win a national championship. We got, short at the SEC championship. I want to win the SEC championship. As far as personal, I want the Texas touchdown record. I want at least 1,200 yards, and I want to win the Blitnikoff.
Yo, talk about some lofty goals. I love it. Respect the confidence, Demo. Go out there and do it. I mean, look, a national championship and an SEC championship. Where do I sign? I think we would all sign up for that right there. And again, Demo was asked about his individual goals. He talked first about the team and winning championships. So you love that from a guy who is going to be one of the leaders on this Texas offense. Only a few returning starters. He's one of them. He's going to have to step up from that standpoint. Sounds like he's doing it. But how about those individual goals? The Texas touchdown record. If you're curious, Jordan Shipley, the great Jordan Shipley, owns the Longhorn single-season touchdown record. He had 13 receiving touchdowns in 2009. Last year, DeAndre Moore had 7. Now, he's going to get more snaps because he's higher up on the depth chart. Hopefully, he could stay healthy over the course of a long year. Hopefully, the Longhorns play a bunch of games, so he's got a better chance to break that record. Hey, anytime you can enter the conversation with Jordan Shipley, who is a top 2 receiver, maybe a top 1 receiver in Texas history, that's a damn good thing right there. 1,200 yards in the Blitnikoff, too. All right, Demo, do your thing, man. I love it. I love the confidence. Hopefully, Arch Manning can help him get there, and that'd be fun to watch if Demo's doing that kind of stuff. And if he does, 1,200 yards, Blitnikoff, and Texas wins those championships, DeAndre Moore, who is draft eligible after 2025, will be leaving after 2025. One more bit of sound. Let's go to the defense. How about Jaylon Guilbeau? He's been here for a while. He's doing what Jahdae Barron did last year, moving from the slot to an outside cornerback position. Worked out really well for Jahdae, wouldn't you say? Won the Thorpe Award, was a first-round pick by the Broncos. Jaylon Guilbeau was asked if he's had conversations with Jahdae Barron about making that move.
I would say I talk to him all the time. That's my brother. So I talk to him. I call him and ask him, like, what did you do at corner, like, that I can do? And, you know what I mean, that they can get me at that standard that you was at. So he was basically telling me, like, go to outside and show them that you can cover. You know what I mean? And that's they want to see with him. So I'll say I'm just doing the same thing, just going to corner and show the scouts that I can cover.
Yeah, talking about scouts, look, it's a contract year for Jaylon Guilbeau. He puts it all together this season. Maybe he can be the next Jahdae Barron. I think we'd all sign up for that too, right? Another Thorpe Award winner and another first-round pick in the Texas secondary. That would be great. So, yeah, good guy to learn from. Pick the brain of Jahdae Barron, who had no problems making that transition. And Jaylon Guilbeau was very open about this yesterday, and he's right. It's easier to play outside corner than it is to play in the slot because you don't have to worry about two-way goes, and you get that extra defender, the sideline as your extra defender if you're playing on the outside. So there's a little bit less field that you have to cover. And again, Jahdae Barron made the move look pretty easy. He was really good as a slot corner for a couple of years, but when he went to the outside, that's where his game really took off. Hopefully the same can hold true for Jaylon Guilbeau, who I think has already looked like a really good player. But if he's Jahdae Barron 2.0, then Dwayne Akina is going to be very happy, and Texas fans everywhere are going to be too. So there you go. There's a little bit of sound from the Texas player availability after last night's practice. What are your big takeaways from what Goosby, Demo, and JG had to say? Do you believe that those guys are going to do what they're talking about? By the way, congrats to Jaylon Guilbeau. Recently had a kid, baby girl. So congrats to the new dad. He talked about that being extra motivation for him every time he takes the practice field as well. Good stuff. All right, we've got one segment left on a Friday show. How about the latest with Texas recruiting? A couple of nuggets for you going into the weekend. One Texas target will announce tomorrow. Another one could be announcing very soon. Are the Horns about to add to their class of 2026? We'll talk about it next on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, we just passed the MLB trade deadline. The Rangers made a bunch of moves. The Astros made a bunch of moves. A bunch of teams made a bunch of moves. If you want to go catch a ball game this summer and into the fall, check out Game Time. If you don't have any plans tonight, this weekend, and at the last minute you decide you want to go catch a game with friends and family, hit up Game Time. They help you out. You save so much money on tickets. You can splurge on food. You can splurge on drinks. You can splurge on merch. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and easy. Prices on their app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last-minute deals. They also show you a clear view from your seat so you know exactly what your vantage point is going to look like before you purchase your tickets. They have no hidden fees as well, and they've got their lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Buying tickets used to be a pain in the you-know-what. With Game Time, it no longer is. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem that promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Apparently, I lost the ability to speak English during that read. Hopefully, we can get through this final segment of the week. Can you tell I'm looking forward to the weekend? My goodness. All right, a couple of recruiting nugs going into the weekend. There are two blue-chip targets that are expected to announce their commitments in the coming days. One of them is for sure committing tomorrow. That is five-star defensive back Davon Benjamin from the state of California. The Longhorns are in the mix here, as is Michigan. Both schools will have hats on the table, along with Washington and North Carolina. But it sounds like Oregon just about has this thing wrapped up. And barring a last-minute change of heart, maybe a last-minute NIL offer that comes from one of the other four schools, sounds like Oregon will be the decision for Davon Benjamin. He's a great player, five-star safety. He's kind of versatile, too. He can play corner. He can play safety. He can play in the slot. You know Texas loves guys like that. You know Dwayne Akina loves cross-training guys. He'd be a perfect fit and a perfect chess piece for the future of the Longhorn secondary. Love to get him. Texas needs another safety in this class. They do have one committed right now with Miami Riley, the three-star from right here in Austin, but the Horns are looking for one more. Even though they've recruited well there the last two cycles, Jonah Williams, Zealous Hicks, Xavier Filsamy, it's two five-stars and a four-star there. You've got Jordan Johnson-Rebel, who will be back in 2026. There's questions about the future of that room beyond this year. Michael Taft has to leave, unfortunately. Derek Williams Jr. and Jelani McDonald, both of those guys are draft eligible after 2025. They could come back, but if they have great years, they could go pro. And if all three of those guys leave, the room's going to look a hell of a lot different. So important for Texas to restock in that safety room. If the Horns do miss on Benjamin, as expected, maybe look for a flip out there, maybe a senior eval. I strongly believe that the Horns want to sign at least two safeties in this class. Benjamin, kind of the last uncommitted guy that Texas is really going hard after right now. If he does end up committing to the Ducks, then it's back to the drawing board for Texas. So that one's trending down, but another recruitment is trending up for the Horns, and that's four-star defensive lineman Jake Krell from IMG Academy in Florida, 6'3", 230 pounds, a top 10 edge in this class. I think he's the 63rd ranked player overall, according to the composite rankings. Texas is one of the 3 finalists here. It's Texas, it's OU, and it's Ole Miss. 3 SEC schools, and obviously 2 big rivals going after Jake Krell. He announced that. That's not speculation. Those are his 3 announced finalists. He said that in early July. For a long time, it sounded like Oklahoma was the favorite here, but recently the trend has been good for Texas. It's been flowing south of the Red River. It's a great player. Under Armour All-American. Played the Polynesian Bowl as well. 12 TFLs, 6 sacks in 9 games at IMG Academy last year, going up against some really, really good talent in the Sunshine State. We don't have a commitment date for Jake Krell just yet. It could happen this weekend. Some people are speculating it could happen very soon. This is also one that could drag out into the fall as well. But he's one of the top uncommitted players available, and he's one of the top uncommitted players on Texas's board, and he would be a great addition to an already elite defensive line class. I mean, you've got the 5-star edge Richard Wesley already committed. You add Jake Krell to that. Those are your 2 edges that you sign. Dude, you're all right. Plus the 4 interior guys that you already have committed in this cycle. I mean, Texas already has the best D-line class committed in 2026. You add another high 4-star into the fold, no one's touching you this year. So, again, maybe we get some news this weekend. I don't know. But the good news is very recently, this thing has been trending Texas's way. The Longhorns in a good spot there as Sark and company continue to bolster up the lines of scrimmage. And I think Alan Clark, look, I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. Nothing's done yet. But Alan Clark is big on this one. He's done a tremendous job in recruiting. It's been a big part of why Texas has inked, or at least got some of the guys to commit in this class of 2026. If he's able to land Jake Krell too, that's another feather in the cap for Alan Clark, who's been amazing in his first few months on the job here in Austin. So there you go. Some recruiting updates. Hopefully on Monday. Hell, hopefully we're doing a breaking news vid tomorrow about Davon Benjamin committing to Texas. But we'll see. And we'll keep you posted with everything happening with Jake Krell and the entirety of the Texas recruiting class. But that's going to do it for today's show. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. Really do appreciate y'all making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. Please remember to like. Please remember to subscribe. Hit that notification bell as well so you always know when we drop new content. And please leave a comment as well. That's one of the fastest ways to help us grow here on Locked On. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets with my man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers. They are your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs, expert analysis, game picks, the lock of the day. They've got you covered. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll have more fall camp conversation next week, more recruiting talk. Yeah, we're getting closer. 29 days away from Texas football. Oh, my God, it's August. We have Texas football this month, people. It's a beautiful thing. Hope everyone enjoys the weekend. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.